Servitude, the state of being a complete subject to someone more powerful than yourself. Power, the ability to have extreme influence over others. Those words have their own basic definitions, and yet strength can never be truly...
You can skip the adjectives, man. We get it.
What the... How did you get into the script?
I'm your editor. This is my job. So I'm here to stop you from wasting time talking about pixel comparisons to shave down your runtime.
Okay, well, today we won't just be inspecting Jasper's buffness. We'll be analyzing her strength, speed, and durability to answer the question...
How powerful is Steven Universe's ultimate Homeworld warrior, Jasper?
That's all you got?
Heck.
You! I speak monotone. I'm your editor.
To kick things off, let's talk about Jasper's incredible strength. For instance, in the 18th episode of the 3rd season, Crack the Whip, as Jasper battles against Amethyst, Connie, and Steven, we see her grab a corrupted Jasper by the tail
and just swing that monster dog thing around like she was wrestling a chew toy away from a big old puppy.
That's one way of saying it. Scaling this corrupted gem to common gems, this blue boy should weigh 5,400 pounds or nearly 3 tons.
What a minute! I thought this was an updated version of the old video, ? You're using feeds from the original series. What about Steven Universe Future?
Well, Jasper does interact with Steven during the first and last few episodes of the sequel series. During Steven's training montage, we see Jasper lugging 2 boulders on her shoulders as the 2 gems scale up a mountain. Scaling the boulder on her right shoulder to Steven, we can find it has a radius of 72.95 centimeters.
Seeing as Steven Universe takes place in a fictional world, which throws a wrench in the narrowing down a location to get some intel on.
Not necessarily. While Steven does live in a made-up state, it is confirmed that the aforementioned state is positioned in eastern United States. Throughout the eastern United States, there are 3 types of stone that are most common: sandstone, limestone, and shield.
Looking at the rocks, they aren't as white hue like limestone, and they aren't as dark as shield, so it's likely that the boulders are composed of sandstone.
Taking the density of sandstone and using the equation for the volume of a sphere, then plugging in the radius that was established before, and then doubling that as she's lugging 2 boulders, we find that Jasper can walk around while carrying 8,720 kilograms.
Or, for us proper Americans, 19,185 pounds, or just short of 9.6 tons.
For comparison, that's over 29 times the weight of the heaviest black bear. Using this method again for another scene later in Steven's training montage, we can scale this boulder to find that it weighs 617.9 tons.
Okay, lifting rocks is cool and all, but what about when she splatters one apart with her spin dash?
Good question. In this instance, Jasper splatters apart one of the smaller boulders from before. Using that equation for the volume of a sphere, followed by the application of the radius, we find its volume in cubic centimeters to be 1,630,000. Multiplying that by the fragmentation of rock, we find that Jasper must have produced 112,470,000 joules of energy. And it was just so casual. I mean, just look at that smile.
Wow! That is cool! What the
Heck.
is this? She's just punching apart his shields! Aren't they supposed to be durable as
Heck. ?
Indeed they are. These are the same shields that a young and inexperienced Steven used against a laser blast from the Green Hand.
Show clip of Steven throwing up his shield and save the crystal gem.
Accounting for its size, as it is a slug instead of a continuous beam, and assuming it is moving at light speed since it's Homeworld tech, we find that the blast is worth an astounding 742 billion joules, or 170 tons of TNT. While this feat took basically all of younger Steven's efforts and left him rather weak, the same wouldn't apply to an older and more experienced Steven, so it's very likely that his current shield shown here can handle even more. But that's speculation, we're all about the numbers here.
Okay, yeah, alright. That all is pretty cool, but you mentioned up top that we weren't just covering strength today. What about her speed? How fast can she really go?
Well, as much as we can throw numbers around every time she spin dashes, we can save ourselves some time by looking at all those times her spin dashes form a fiery aura around her.
Fire? Aura? This is an avatar honor. Sounds like the effects of when an object moves faster than the oxygen atoms can move, which creates fire.
This would put Jasper's fastest speeds at around 7,823.2 meters per second. That's over 23 times the speed of sound.
Alright, for normal people, the fastest car at the time of writing this is the Kennegasagig,
I don't think that's even close, dude.
which can reach incredible speeds of 260 miles per hour. Comparing that to Jasper would be over 67 times faster than that.
And while she lacks speed feats, her durability's off the charts. Her greatest fights were against 2 familiar faces, Garnet and Steven.
Using numbers from the Garnet video, the leader of the Crystal Gem can punch with a massive force output of 15,212,918 newtons.
If we want to talk about some serious punches, how powerful do you think a giant water fist feels? In the episode Alone at Sea, Jasper interrupts a bonding experience between Steven and Lapis Lazuli before trying to force her back into the fearsome fusion malachite, but is projected and then punched sky high. Scaling Lapis' height to this floorboard, the pillar has a diameter of 245 centimeters, and as it erupts through the floor, we can establish that it stands 1,531.75 centimeters tall. We find this pillar has a collective volume of 72.2 cubic meters.
If you're like me, you probably think that water is relatively light, but no, the stuff's heavy, alright? 997 kilograms per cubic meter, kinda heavy.
That would make the arm weigh 71,983.4 kilograms, or 158,700 pounds. Seen as the pillar travels both its length and the height from the bottom of the boat in about half a second, its velocity is 35.38 meters per second.
Plugging these numbers into the equation for kinetic energy, we find that Jasper was hit with 45,052,250.56 joules of energy. Converting that equation of work equals force times distance into force equals work divided by the distance, and using the length that the tip of Lapis's fingers traveled, we find that Lapis smacked Jasper with 58,684,708.30 newtons.
As impressive as that is, we can't overlook Jasper's 2 fights with Steven in Little Homeschool and Fragments. During their first bout, Pink Steven punches Jasper through 10 trees. Scaling Jasper to Steven here, and then using the same scaling in a later shot, we can determine each tree has a diameter of 108.48 centimeters.
With this scale in mind, the 10 trees have a total area of 9.242 square meters between them. The most common tree in the eastern United States is the red maple, which has a shear strength of 7.45 megapascals. This means Jasper must have been hit with an astounding 600...
Heck.
I hate your big
Heck.
numbers. With an outstanding 68,850,000 newtons.
And she just shrugs it off right about seconds later. But Steven doesn't simply knock the trees over, he hits Jasper hard enough to send them sky high.
Compared to Jasper again, we see that trees soar 25.56 meters up with an initial angle of 90 degrees. Rearranging this equation into this equation, we can find a peak velocity of 22.40 meters per second. Using the scale one more time, we can determine that each tree has a volume of 11 cubic meters. Multiplying that by the density of red maple wood, we find that each tree should weigh 8,250 kilograms. Plugging the previous calculated velocity along with the mass into the equation for kinetic energy, we can determine that 9,408,000 joules must have been produced to get it skyrocketing. Multiplying that by 10.
Because there's 10 trees?
Yeah, because there's 10 trees. Doing that, we find a total of 94,080,000 joules must have been needed for all the trees to start blasting off again.
It's a little Team Rocket joke. Pokemon.
Ha!
Dividing this by the distance that Steven's fist must have embedded itself into Jasper's chest, which is about 2.65 centimeters or 0.0265 meters, we find that Steven must have hit Jasper with 3.55 giganewtons.
3.55? That's so low! You said he'd hit her with nearly 69 million newtons last time. How did we get to 3.55?
Okay, calm down. See, 1,000 newtons is a kilonewton, and 1 million newtons is a meganewton, so 1 billion newtons is 1 giganewton. And this isn't 1 giganewton, it's almost 4 of them.
So, what you're saying is that Jasper took a punch worth over 3,500,000.
Heck.
That's a lot of numbers. That's a big punch. Alright. So what you're saying is that Jasper took a punch worth over 3,550,000,000 newtons. Nearly 132 times more powerful than the Saturn V rocket, and she just walked it off like it was nothing.
She sure did, but
Hold on. Just a minute. There's still half a page left in the script. I thought that was the end of the video.
almost, but we have to talk about Buff Pink Steven, his ultimate form.
Like a Super Saiyan?
Yes, exactly like that. When Buff Pink Steven slams into Jasper, he not only has a blurry trail following him, but there are also several crackles of electricity coursing off of him. Seen as other diamonds have relativistic speed feats, it's likely he can move near, if not exactly the speed of light. Taking that speed into account and bumping his weight up from 145 pounds to 200 pounds, then plugging all of this into the equation for kinetic energy, we find that Buff Pink Steven must have collided into Jasper with 937 giganewtons of TNT. That's nearly 19 times more powerful than the Tsar Bomba, the most powerful bomb on Earth.
And that didn't even poof her. It wasn't until Buff Pink Steven really let out his last bloodlust, and then Jasper finally cracked underneath the pink protagonist's power. shattered, and she shattered under his power.
You know, if you read that better, would have been a.
Hey! Shut up!
Rolls outro music. Plug channels and videos and say something to bring them back.
You should come back.
Subscribe.
Nice pun.
Thank you.